Welcome back to Your Personal Brand with Bethany Shipley, and welcome in the virtual studio, the one and only Taylor Doe
What's
is in
up?
the
What's up? What's up?
house. Thank you for being here, Taylor.
Super excited. This is gonna be awesome.
Oh, same. And I feel so excited because I watched your TEDx talk on YouTube and was super moved and yeah, just immediately felt very compelled to the mission and sent the link to several people, my mother-in-law, my husband, several of my family members, my dad. And actually I didn't send it to my dad that night. It was the next day and just kept saying, "Hey, you need to watch this. I want to know your thoughts." And they were all so positive, but it definitely hit me the hardest out of
Yeah.
all of our group. And so I commented on YouTube and then I also found you on Instagram and that's how our conversation started.
Yes.
So for someone who hasn't seen your TEDx talk and this is their first time getting to know you, would you mind kind of briefing them on what moved me?
For sure. I'm happy to do that. Well, first, I want to congratulate you on 100 episodes of the podcast. I know we're past that now, but I mean, you're in like the top 2% of podcasters, or maybe even one. I don't know. You might know the stats, but like getting to 100 is no small feat. I listened to episode 100. It was awesome. So I just want to say congratulations. That's a huge deal. It's
Thank you.
not easy. I know it's a grind. So I just wanted to virtually applaud you on that before we get started. But
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've had a lot of fun with it and I'm excited about the next 100 episodes.
yes, and so I'm honored that I get to be in the second half. The after 100. That's really special. So I appreciate you having me on, and I love talking about and then moments. And I had the opportunity to give a TED talk a few years ago about this topic called and then moments, which you've kind of mentioned before. And I'm happy to share about it. This has been a journey that I've been on for a very long time. I grew up in a household that you could probably say is affluent. I lived in a nice neighborhood. I went to a great school that was well funded. But growing up, kind of being in youth group and the family I grew up in, I had these opportunities to interact with people from kind of all different socioeconomic and racial backgrounds. And so growing up, just kind of having these questions of why are things different and what's happening and all of those things. And a really great opportunity came about 15 years ago, right out of college. I'm happy to kind of share about that later, but I had the opportunity to work in low income schools in Oklahoma City. That's where I'm based. Currently still live here. I love it. But it was on the east side of Oklahoma City, which is predominantly Black, predominantly low income. And I was working in 3-4 elementary schools every single week doing these like massive school wide assemblies. We had a positive word of the month that we would do. And we just had a blast. It was so much fun. But it put me in relationship with students and families. And I was seeing incredible students who had passions and dreams and wanted to do these amazing things. I just didn't see the avenues or kind of doors to opportunities that I had growing up. I didn't see that in their lives. And this kind of all came to a head a few years ago when I was doing this event called Fast Food Valentines. It's an event where I've been doing this for years. We actually started in college, where we go around and we buy a whole bunch of cards and chocolates and roses and deliver them to ladies working at fast food restaurants. It is so fun. We've been doing it for years. But some of my guys, some of my students, kind of fast forward, in the school were like, "Hey, Tito," that's my nickname. We're like, "We want to do Fast Food Valentines. We heard about it. We saw about it. It's our turn to do this." And so I had to step it up that year. And so we rented limousine and we rented tuxedos for the guys. And we did the same thing. We passed out cards and chocolates and roses to ladies working at fast food restaurants. And that night, one of my guys, his name is Demarion. We call him DJ. DJ looked at me and asked me a question that I would never forget. And he looked at me, he was like, "Tito, I want one of the good jobs when I get older. Like, how do people get the good jobs?" And in that moment, I froze. I didn't have an answer for him right away. Luckily, like Burger King saved me. We pulled up to our next spot and kind of the conversation had changed. But it really planted a seed in my heart of like, how do I answer the question of how opportunities flow? And so I started doing some interviews. I interviewed people who from kind of all different backgrounds of would kind of say the good jobs, right? Superintendents, entrepreneurs, middle level managers in corporate America. Like, literally, I've interviewed so many people. And when people tell their stories of success, I noticed kind of this one phrase that stuck out, and it was this phrase, "and then." It's a transition word, So for me, I grew up in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and then I went to the University of Oklahoma, and then I got a good job at this energy company in Oklahoma City, and then I started a tech company with my brother. That phrase "and then" showed up in every single one of my interviews. What I realized was that there's kind of hidden things behind that "and then" phrase that people don't normally share. And it typically comes down to relationships. And so one of my big "and then" moments is what I call it, was in college. I had a college roommate in the fraternity whose mom was senior vice president at that energy company. And she saw the work that I was doing in the community and was like, "Hey, you need to meet this guy named Greg. He's our head of community outreach. I think you would hit it off. I don't know if anything will come from it, but you guys should meet." And so we met, and that turned into an internship, which turned into a full-time job. And then, and then, and then. So those are "and then" moments. They're people who unlock knowledge, resources, and opportunity. I think I lost your audio.
There we go.
There we go.
Thank you for sharing that. I was just like on a roll over here. Yeah, and that is really the premise of your TED Talk, but also for those who are listening, definitely go listen to the TED Talk as well, because there's more, you had maybe a little bit more time than what you shared just now. Two things stuck out to me as you're sharing this. One, why do you think that people blow over explaining how the "and then" moment came to them? Like, why do you think we just throw it in and then instead of explaining really the back door of how it happened? Is that coming from a place of feeling unworthy of getting the job or getting the opportunity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually think it's don't think people are necessarily hiding it most of the times. And I realized that when I interviewed my grandpa, and I interviewed him about his story, and I've heard his story 1,000 times, right? It's grandpa's childhood story of how he came up. But this is when I kind of had this new framework of how to think about opportunity. And I really had this concept, and I was really wrestling with "and then" moments. And so I started asking him questions in different ways that I've ever asked him before. And I was hearing names of people that I'd never heard my grandpa share before. And that's when I kind of realized in the moment that I think we naturally leave out these kind of seemingly insignificant moments, but they're actually really significant moments. And we just kind of naturally leave them out, because I don't think my grandpa was like being malicious or trying to hide the story from his grandson. It's just kind of in brevity and kind of getting to the point, right? People use this transition phrase to do it. Another interesting thing that I heard in a lot of these stories was this idea of kind of hard work. That was something that showed up in every single one of my interviews was, "Hey, I worked hard for this. I did all of that." So I'm very aware that, yes, a component of gaining opportunity is hard work, and people definitely hit on that. They kind of highlight the challenges that they faced, how they persevered, kind of the rags to riches idea that I think is pretty prevalent in kind of our national narrative. So that's something that I heard a lot. And then two, I just don't think that we ask questions when people tell their stories in very specific ways. And so I've really practiced that muscle, and like really have focused on trying to ask better questions and really kind of get in there. And it's been so fun interviewing people about their stories and hearing about their "and thens."
And props to you for even catching that common denominator, because in your TEDx talk, when I was noticing you went through, I think, 3 examples. And you said, "What do you notice about each of these?" And I'm like, hard work. Like, that was clearly the common denominator. But then you underlined "and then," and for me, I think it's not so much that I'm trying to hide the "and then" moments when I'm sharing my story, as much as it is it gets me so emotional so quick
Mm,
that I all of a sudden drop into what I think is actually more of a powerful moment, really, but it puts all the focus away from quote unquote my story and into the reality that holy cow, this has been a collaboration all along. And yeah, I'm a hard worker.
totally.
It's who I am, but also a lot more went into being in the place I'm in right now, even now. And I don't even feel like I'm at some sort of mountaintop, but just being here now, I'm like, man, there's just so much that goes into this, you know? So maybe that's maybe a hot take on why we can't go there in the story because it's so heavy and so special that it
Yeah,
takes the
for sure.
limelight. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's probably a few different reasons why people don't share. I think one is probably brevity. I think two, there has to be some sort of admission that you've had help.
Mm.
And I think that's still like a little bit taboo of like, hey, I've maybe got more help than what I've really told anyone. Like when I was doing these interviews, I still continue to do them. And I think I naturally just ask these questions at this point. But there were several times that it was like, hey, you can't share this part, or I've
Mhm.
never told anyone this, or my in-laws are the only one, like my wife and my in-laws are the only ones who know this, that they helped us with a down payment on our house. And now you're the fourth party to know about this.
No
So it
pressure.
was really, yeah, it was like really interesting of like people being a little bit protective of that information because they don't want to be seen as, you know, getting a whole bunch of help to be able to do these things, right?
Yeah.
So I do create. My hope is that I create a safe space when I talk with people about their stories, to be able to share some of those maybe advantages or help that they got along the way that's allowed them to be in the place that they're at.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm hearing that and I totally see that. It does. There are some things that if I'm holding them as this is what makes me special, but then somehow there was some sort of other party involved. That could be,
Totally.
like and the reality is what your message brings, which is why I love it so much, is everyone who's anywhere, I believe, is there because
Totally.
of resources, whether that be, that's the house I grew up in, that's the way we think, that's what we do, that's identity, or it's actual, opportunities that have been, passed on. Okay, so the other question that I kind of had while you were just sharing this first part is that you said, this is something we do, Valentine's Day dinner. This was your idea, right?
Yeah. And my sister and her boyfriend at the time did this one time together, and we kind of just took it and ran with it. She's a little bit older and it was just like, this is really cool. And so my sophomore year of college, uh there were a few of us buddies and we're just like, we're incredibly single, all of our buddies are out on these dates, we want to do something kind for other people, we eat a ton of fast food, like let's go and do this, right? And so I had started a campus organization at the University of Oklahoma and was in a fraternity. And I'd raised money from fraternity brothers' parents to be able to like do these cool service projects. And one of those was fast food Valentines that I wanted to do. And so we had money in this account that I was able to like go to Homeland and talk with the manager who gave us like 50% off of, Valentine stuff. And then we did that. And that was the first year. And that first year we were met with like women who were like crying in the drive-through, like, hey,
Absolutely.
like, thanks
Oh,
for thinking of
absolutely.
me.
Yeah.
I hate working on this day. You're the
Yeah.
first people to say, happy Valentine's. And so that first year, we're like, okay, let's do this for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's been going on since, I mean, almost 20 years, maybe.
Wow.
I would need to do the math, but it's been really special. And every year looks a little bit different. And like other organizations have joined in. My high school back in Bartlesville, they have a leadership group that has done it the last several years. There's been other schools that have joined. My youngest brother, when he was at Baylor, him and his buddies did it, and they took it to another level, and it was really special. And so it's been cool to see it like evolve and change over the years.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I mean, so you said your sister and her boyfriend did it.
Yep.
Was it their idea?
I actually don't know. I need to
Okay.
ask her and
Yeah.
see. I think they just did like roses
Yeah.
and went to a few places and,
That's
did
amazing.
that, which I think is super sweet. And they were like, let's do gifts and let's do cards and let's do, it's
Yeah.
like just kind of ballooned
Yeah.
from there. So
Well, and I think the reason why I'm curious about it is it's one thing to have an idea. It's another thing for, I'm really seeing you as the person that took that idea and ran with it.
mm,
And I mean, awesome. It's so cool for everyone else who's doing it, but you're the one who, said, "Hey, this is a worthy investment,
yeah,
financially speaking."
yeah.
And to go to the Valentine's store and campaign for 50% off is kind of like an uncomfortable thing to do. I mean, right? Wouldn't you
Yeah.
say going in and saying, "Hey, can we get 50% off?"
Here's what we're doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And so, I mean, I just think what I take away from that watching you is thinking, man, it's really cool. It's really cool to take an idea seriously
Mm.
and put your energy behind it. And I think that the world, could learn a lot from you in that way. So,
And what I'll say to that is like I grew up in a family where that was like encouraged, I would say. Like even thinking about my grandpa who was a college professor for many, many years at this Christian college, Greenville College, Greenville University now. But he led a trip and would take students to Chicago every year as kind of this exposure trip. So like he had this idea and like birthed it and took kids, and now they're chartering buses, every year. And this is like a freshman trip that all incoming freshmen take. Like it's really cool to see that idea. And then like even with my dad and the things that he creates and the experiences he creates, I think I definitely grew up in an environment where one, I think our family is just naturally like looks out for others and cares for others. My mom's was a family practice physician for many years. So like growing up and being around town and like running into her patients who are like, your mom is, the best doctor of all time. And you're like, thank
yeah.
you. I was like just kind of hearing those things and seeing the way that she cares for people.
Mm.
Like growing up in that environment was like an invitation to be like, it's more than just us in this household.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to care for others and do these things. And that's what our faith, um, calls us to for our family and in our beliefs. But so that was something that I was able to live out when I got to college, and I was kind of surrounded by a group of guys who had similar feelings, and I was just kind of the catalyst to be able to kind of throw this out there and had people to join. So
Yeah.
we did
Well,
a
and go ahead.
another fun project that we did in college was a senior citizen prom. So we went to a senior citizen home and played the best hits of the 50s and 60s. And like all my friends from college, we dressed up and like had corsages, and the DJ was playing hits, and we had a
Mhm.
photo booth. And we crowned a senior prom king and queen. And it was
Did they
like,
vote? Was
yeah,
it a voting?
oh yeah, there was voting that happened, and we would crown a senior citizen senior prom king and queen, and then a college, and then they
Okay.
would actually switch and dance. So like
Oh,
the senior prom king danced with the college queen and vice versa.
yeah.
And so it was really special. But we went back a few months later and did this. We wanted to do bingo in the Bahamas. We
Okay.
just made up this like event where we all like wore swimsuits and life vests and bought like inflatable palm trees and stuff just for their like regular bingo night. And one of the ladies came up to me and she was weepy. One of the older ladies who lived there was like, "Hey, the senior prom king passed away
Dang.
since you guys had done senior prom." And on behind his casket was a picture of him as
Wow.
senior prom king
Wow.
with the scepter and the crown. Like he got to dance with the young college attractive girl. He's like, I'm out of here. I won prom king. I got nothing left. But it was really special, just like these creating moments for people is something that I want to be known for. I want to help do. I want to help others do, and just love serving in unique ways.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if that's what was behind his casket, that did matter to him a lot.
Yeah,
So that is really cool.
yeah, it was super special.
Um, and you, as you're talking about your mom and being in the community, it's a perfect lead in for my next question because, um, we had a conversation off air. It was
Yep.
online because I live in Missouri,
Yes.
but it was I was really impressed, which I know this is not what you're going for, but I was impressed by how you had kind of protected your story
Mm,
of how to be a community member and make an impact without really like capitalizing on that socially.
yeah.
And I think we've all kind of had exposure to somebody who's, started a nonprofit for the sake of looking good, or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, no judgment, whatever. But I definitely don't get that vibe from you.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, and I really wanted to ask you how you see, I feel like this is a gift, and it really, how you see relationships as a whole, but then
Yeah.
maybe better qualification is like the word community versus friend, and mentor versus coach, and kind of like, do you have a framework for relationships that you could explain how you see it? And if not, that's okay too.
Yeah. No, I mean, let's come up with something right now. No, I do. I think about human connection a lot, actually. And I know this is not we didn't talk specifically about this, so I don't have any like real terminology for you. I'm pretty loose with the word friend. Like, I'm kind of pretty open. I'm just like, oh, that's my friend,
Yep.
But it is interesting, kind of specifically in the Black community, where words around friendship and family are different than what I grew up in, right?
Okay.
So like aunt and uncles and cousins who aren't blood aunts and uncles, like, is a thing, right? And it's like, yeah, we grew up with them, and this is my cousin, right? Where in my upbringing, we didn't use that terminology, and I actually am like super fond of it. I love it, because it's really this idea of like people taking care of each other like family. And so I've learned so much over the years of just spending time in this community of like how to embrace each other, how to give generously even when you don't have, supporting each other, like with words, but also with actions, and with like little finances that you have, or like this idea of sharing resources is like on full display in my neighborhood and the neighborhoods, that I live in. I got to move to the east side, 10, 12 years ago. And so I get to see it every single day. So I would say my vision and my knowledge of what like family and community looks like has been changed just by working in schools and like spending time with family. It's been fun. One of my close friends, he's become my best friend. We actually worked in schools together. So we're doing these assemblies together, and we're having so much fun. And 2-3 years ago, we sat down and we're like, bro, how many times a year do you think we see each other? And so we kind of did like, back in the napkin math, and like kind of looked at our calendars a little bit and was like, man, we probably see each other like 50, 60 times, which is a lot, right?
That's a lot.
Like,
Yeah.
to see somebody. And we're like, dang, like that's pretty good. And then his name's Derek Sire, and it was like, you think we can do 100? And it was like, I don't know, you want to try? And so his kids, he's married and has 2 kids. He's now an empty nester, and I'm unmarried. I don't have any kids. And so like our schedules are a little bit flexible, and we're both out in the community all the time, and we overlap. We don't work together at the same company or anything, but we're like, let's try 100. And so we did it.
You did it.
And on our 100th hangout, we invited our friends to come, which was super fun. So we had some of his friends, some of my friends, some of our shared friends. And what the thing was our goal was hang out 100 times in person. It has to at least be 20 minutes long. So it can't just be like a drive-by hangout. And we take a picture together at every hangout to document, to make it easier to count. And so this was our 2nd year to do it. And it's really fun. So like I said, I'm an experienced guy. I'm an emotional guy, and I want to commemorate things. So I actually have this on my desk. I created this thing. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it.
Okay. 100 Hangouts Club.
100 Hangouts Club.
That looks awesome.
And for the people who are just listening on audio, it's just kind of an acrylic framed thing that says 100 Hangouts Club. And it's, we both sign the back here.
That is so cool.
And set the date. And it says, welcome to the 100 Hangouts Club. Spending time with one person 100 times in a year requires sacrifice, consistency, and care. You chose all 3. That kind of intentional friendship is uncommon. What the world saw was a hangout goal. What it didn't see were the laughs, the tears, the hard conversations, and the times you chose to show up when it mattered most. Congratulations and welcome to the club.
That's awesome.
We had a few people do this, and so we're gifting them this kind of same thing to say, hey, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
But we know 100 is wild, and so we actually launched a website called friendshipgoal.com.
Stop it. Okay, wait. Say this again. Friendship goal.
Yeah, friendshipgoal.com.
Okay.
Where you can sign up and select the number of hangouts that you and your friend want to do. So we have anywhere from, I think, 4 to 100.
I love
and
this.
so you can sign up, and it's been really cool, like seeing other people set friendship goals with each other, and like what that's going to bring, which we have no idea, but we just know that connection is being made. And so that's been a really fun thing, kind of talking about this idea of friendship and fostering relationships and things of that nature. We just thought it'd be fun to throw that out into the world and see if anyone was interested.
Well, and obviously you can't do this with more than however many people. Like
Right.
you said Derek is his name?
Derek, yeah.
Yeah, so like you picked Derek picked you. It's like a special thing.
Yeah.
Let's say, like hypothetically, you had 10 other people approach you and say, hey, Taylor, I really want to be your friend. Like, can we have 100 hangouts? How would you navigate that? How would you navigate that?
I would gently say, let's start with a lower number and work up. And I think people understand that 100 is like
insane.
It's almost like a joke, right? Like just the ability to see, like, proximity is actually a really big thing. Derek lives a neighborhood over from me, so like for us to be able to just meet up after work is a lot easier than if he lived across town, right? We're both kind of proximity guys. We try to like remove as many barriers to connection as possible, and one of those is like space and distance. And so we like just live close enough that he'll shoot a text and be like, hey, I got a meeting canceled, you want to grab lunch at this golf course that's right in our neighborhood? It's like, sure. So we like meet over there. So it's things like that we would not be able to do if he lived on the northwest side, right? So proximity is big for that.
And the fact that you guys have already had that conversation where it's not a question of like, is Taylor going to think this is weird that it's like last minute? No, you both have the goal of 100 hangouts.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I'm definitely doing this specifically. Yeah, and I'm so blessed. We have the best neighbors. Like we live kind of out kind of in the back roads, but 2 of our 3 households around us their kids ride the bus with our kids. We just love you. Like it's just an easy going. And I think they would be up for this. And in fact, Eli, my husband, he just went on a pizza date with the boys. And I was really excited about that. Yes, because, he's a working guy. He's busy. He's got his kids. He's coaching basketball. And it's just, I was really excited to see him go get pizza with his neighbors. As simple as that.
Yes, it's so cool. The thing that we kind of have reflected on when it comes to friendships and like connecting is I've left so many coffee catch-ups or whatever saying we should do this more often. Right. And then it just doesn't happen. And so
specifically how often?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So now this kind of is like a shared goal, right? Of like, okay, 4 times is better than 1, which is we did 1 time last year, right? So 4 once a quarter, like that's doable. And then now we're texting back and forth of like, okay, hey, we got to hit our hangout goal, which seems superficial, but actually once we sit down and get right back into it, like it was like, okay, this was totally worth it.
Yeah, no, it does not sound superficial at all. I think it's like the same as married couples shouldn't have to schedule time together. Well, good luck without that, good luck seeing each other, or like being available emotionally even. So that makes total sense. Very cool. I want to ask you this. I know we're spending a little more time here, but my husband's family has been influential in teaching me about the idea of, first of all, chosen family, because they've adopted in another family who actually built a home on the property. So they've got kind of like a family compound going on over there. We're about a mile away, but we are separate, But chosen family, 1, 2, living and giving generously. They're so generous, every last one of them. 3, you mentioned sharing resources, and they are this way. And coming from, I can't ever figure out if it's my wiring, if it's my upbringing, what it is, but it stresses me out. And I dug in deep with one of my brother-in-laws at the river. We had our feet in the river, and I'm like, all right, talk to me about this. Where's the framework? Because I don't want to take more than I give, but I don't honestly understand. And I'll try to say what I'm trying to say without so many words. But if somebody has a machine that a brother wants to use, the brother uses it, and there's no weirdness. Then when a machine is wanting to be purchased, everybody pitches in. And not everybody, but like mainly Eli's older brother's so generous like this. And so yesterday we had this huge conversation because we all share a water truck, and we haul our own water. We all share a water truck. And I wanted to put together a fund that is just like an automatic $50 to $100 a month goes in the water truck fund, so that when the water truck breaks down, it's not sprung on anyone. And so I started the text message, and only my father-in-law responded. And
That's
so I'm like,
hilarious.
okay, am I off here? And of course, I'm going to send them this episode. And multiple of my brother-in-laws do listen to my podcast. What's your take on that? Like, I'm trying to organize this so that I can show up for my community better, but I feel like they live in such a state of abundance that they could never absolutely perceive them feeling sprung on.
Yeah.
What are you? I mean, I just overtalked,
Well,
but like,
I guess I'm trying to decide sides of whose side I want to be on, yours or the brother-in-law.
Yes,
Okay.
and shoot straight if you want to be with them, because I'm open to changing how I see this.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think it probably depends on their financial situation, which I do not know. So I do think that there are people, and I'm not necessarily talking about your family, but like who just have enough that, you know, there aren't surprises, right? And I think that's the challenge of families who live in poverty, is there's kind of always something. And then when you get behind, it's like almost like it's so hard to catch up. And so for people who kind of live and have that cushion, or we kind of, what Derek and I talk a lot about is that this idea of margin, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone's margin's different, but to really understand people who like live in poverty, there's just a lack of margin in kind of almost every area. And so for the family to have a conversation, and I'm not a family therapist or counselor at all, but it does seem just kind of like, yeah, it really depends on people's financial situation and what people feel comfortable with, their relationship with money and kind of their upbringing. And so there might be some differences there between you and the brother-in-laws, right? I'm in an entrepreneur group. My brother and I have had a business for several years that we recently sold, and I'm in this group of people, and we kind of talk about like, what is there a number that your spouse feels comfortable with in regards to money, right? Have you had the conversation about like, if it gets below this number, like we start moving differently, or I get a lot of anxiety, right? And so that's different for everybody. And there's a lot of factors at play, but I do think it's that conversation of maybe it's them being able to reassure you that like, hey, if the truck does break, we're okay, right? Like we will be able to get it fixed, and maybe being able to bring you some peace in that way. But it is really cool, like that your family is able to share in that way. We have a few nonprofits here on the east side that tools is another thing that like low income families don't have, and so kind of having a shared shed of sorts for people to be able to rent and like use these tools is like a really big thing. And so you guys kind of have that built in within your micro community there, which is really cool to kind of think about and share resources, and the hope that like, you guys didn't buy 4 chainsaws, you guys bought 1. And so what are you guys doing with the money that you guys would have spent on the other 3 chainsaws, right? Like you're able to maybe be generous in other ways that people who are just buying these one-offs aren't able to do. So that is really cool that you guys you're doing that.
Yeah, and I really can't take any credit. I married in and immediately was just like, wow. Like one of the first times we ever hung out, Eli and I hung out, we're at his family's house, and one of his brothers was like, hey, Eli, I'm going to transfer and then named an amount of money from your account to mine. And
Yeah.
Eli's like, okay, cool. And that was that. He had his banking information and he was headed out the door to just take the money because he needed to buy it for something. And
Yeah.
I looked at Eli and I was like, never in my life would I ever give my bank account information to any of my family. And I have the best family in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not dissing them. It's just very different ways of living. So
Yeah.
I've learned a lot and I benefit a lot from them. So, okay, I've spent a lot of time here. Kind of want to move on. I've heard a lot of woes about job hunting, and obviously the title of your TED Talk was specifically how to get the good job, although it was a bigger meaning than that.
Yeah.
Here are some of the things I've heard. It's algorithm based. Robots do the sorting. There's no hope for me. How do you suggest someone who is feeling disappointed in their relationships or network? They're like, man, they're looking around, not feeling optimistic about it. How do you recommend they go about meeting their own person that's holding the and then moment? And do you have thoughts on that? Is that outdated? Is that still relevant? Like,
still super relevant. I would say that social scientists kind of talk about this idea of loose ties, is kind of the terminology that they use. And essentially it's kind of these loose connections, people that you don't see every day that actually can move you into different networks that you're not already involved with, right? So what I would say is to kind of do an assessment on your network, to kind of pause, to say, hey, who's in my like core circle? And what studies show is that your core circle kind of share this kind of loosely the same friend group, right? Like, yeah, of course we don't have all the same exact friends, but we're kind of in the same ecosystem bubble, right? And so the loose ties are the people that are on the fringes who are actually in other groups that you aren't tied to. And there's opportunity within those other groups. And so I think the first people that are coming to mind are like maybe some high school friends that you just haven't connected with in however many years, and maybe kind of spinning up conversations there. Maybe it was reflecting on other places that you've worked in, like your past, and thinking about coworkers that you'd kind of built some trust with and seeing where they're at and what they're doing these days. Those would be classified as loose ties. And there's actually a lot of value in those loose ties to be able to move you to another network. So that's where I would start, is to do like an evaluation of kind of the friends on the fringes that you could meet back up with.
Yep. And do you think that conversation could look something like, hey, I want to touch base, like very straightforwardly, like I want to touch base, I'm looking to do some different work? Or would it be, how would you go about that initial conversation?
I think it's probably what you feel comfortable with. You know, if they're in your area, of just like, hey, you came to mind recently, would love to grab coffee. I'm in between, careers, and just wanted to connect. And I think people can put dots together. And or you can think of, maybe someone in your close friend group who could make an introduction to one of their loose ties, right? And kind of be that buffer, kind of that transferred trust that happens there. That could be another way to navigate it, where it's like, man, I don't really feel comfortable necessarily trying this myself, but maybe my best friend would be willing to make an introduction for me, and then I could meet with that person. So that's where I would start, is kind of doing an assessment, thinking about those people that you built trust with in the past that you just haven't connected with in however many years, and kind of restart that conversation just to see if anything comes from it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And even I'm thinking of, because no one wants to feel like they're bombarding a friend over coffee. So I like that you said that the addendum of I'm in between, or I'm even thinking of a simple text if you didn't want to get together, or if you didn't have space to get together, or proximity, like you were saying, of just, hey, if anyone comes to mind that could use my skills, keep me in mind, keep top of mind, or whatever. So, okay, that's really helpful. That's really good. All right. So I feel like we can all identify with being on both sides of an and then moment, specifically the receiving side.
Yeah.
Do you ever notice that the giver of the and then moment, the person that's kind of created the opportunity, tends to downplay their role?
Yeah, I would say so. I think are, yeah, I would say that most people don't go around and flaunt this maybe. um but I do think it's interesting of like, for me, being a single person, like, and not having someone in my ecosystem to like know the good deeds, quote unquote, that I do, versus me being married and like my spouse knowing everything, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's interesting where it's like maybe they're not flaunting it or posting it on social media or doing those things, but it's interesting of like who they're sharing these with. And maybe that's in a little bit more intimate
Yeah.
setting, with a spouse or a loved one, or maybe a small group of people, that could, then encourage others to do it. A few things that I've found. One is that when people share their and then moments, like I get to do some public speaking and things like that. And one of the activities during the talk is like I'll have them turn to their neighbor, like if they're at tables, they'll like share some of their and then moments. And it starts off like pretty slow, like, okay, well, which one do I share? What do I share? All of those things. And then I like have trouble stopping them from
Mhm.
talking, right? It is this weird thing where when people start sharing, like it's an invitation for other people to share about their and then moments. And there's kind of this mix like of gratitude of like, I'm really thankful for the people in my life who have unlocked doors for me, and I want to do that for other people. And so it's really like kind of this cool thing of like, okay, in this moment, we kind of have this shared gratitude, and then in the same vein of like, okay, how do I do this for other
Yeah.
people, which is fun. The last kind of caveat in that same vein is I've got to speak to young people about this as well, which I don't really enjoy. I have talked with young people all the time, but I enjoy talking about and then moments with adults who like
Mhm.
create the environments for young people. So I was speaking at this kind of technical college. It's a 2-year school, and I was sharing about and then moments, and I wanted them to share. And this was the first time I put my cell phone number like up on the screen. I was like,
Oh,
text me your
wow.
and thens. And it was so fascinating how fast these started to come in and like how quick these young adults put together this concept, right? Like I've typically speak with adults and they've had a lot of life and there's like a lot of like spider webs and crossover and all these things. It's been really interesting talking with young people where like, oh, it was my math teacher
Yeah.
who like, unlocked this for me. It was this art teacher that saw me drawing and then like bought me some school supplies, like art supplies on the side, and like really encouraged that. Or is
Yeah.
this person like it's been so cool like hearing from young people how like quick they get the concept. And so I have I don't know where my phone is. I can scroll through and it was literally, I think there were like 200 students or something.
Wow.
And it is like so powerful. It's like my grandma gave me $200 for gas to get to college, right? Like I wouldn't be able to be here if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
Like just some of the most like I'm like sobbing reading
Yeah.
these, right?
Yeah.
And so it's super special. I'm never gonna delete those messages, but it has been cool as I've gathered these stories of these kind of stories of impact.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. I mean, the reason I asked that is because when I shared with you my most prevalent and then moment of being, taken in at 17
Yeah.
by a couple that they just hadn't, from their perspective, this is the energy they would say it in. Well, yeah, we had an extra room and we liked you. And,
Mm,
but for me, it was like a 99% of my situation. It was a
yeah.
big deal. It was very heavy. And for them, it was like maybe 5%. Oh, sure. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering maybe if the reason why those who are giving out the keys, the and then moments to people don't really understand the impact is because they're forgetting the percentage of weight. The $200 for the grandma to give might have just been, she maybe had, who knows, I'm speculating, but
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
out of 2,000, it's not that big a deal, but or whatever. And so I'm thinking of myself and how often I might downplay something I might do. And yet,
Yeah.
if I really allow myself to sit there and just kind of have some appreciation for like recently I got to do something that really wasn't a big deal for me, but it actually was a really big deal for them, you
Mm,
know. And I think it's easy for me to get emotional and appreciate being given to.
Yeah.
But I also really want to take some time to appreciate getting to give.
Yeah.
Because like that's coming from a whole different side. So
Yeah.
um
And what I'll say to that interesting nuance is like, I think our society is pretty like separated, like kind of in silos, where people who don't have many opportunities kind of live around and work with people who don't have that many opportunities. I kind of use the term keys, like to unlock these doors. They don't have very many keys in their pocket. And then there are communities in that have lots of keys, right? And I just don't see the overlap of people with lots of keys and lots of opportunities overlapping with communities that don't. And so I think within communities of that have a lot of keys, they are sharing these opportunities. They're giving their friends' kids internships and, being able to go on these trips, overseas and like do all of these things. And they are generous to people that are kind of in their ecosystem.
okay. Yep.
But I don't see like a whole lot of overlap. I see the challenge in kind of bridging that gap, connecting silos. And so there's been some research done showing that when we talk about mobility, kind of people being able to move up, that a big indicator for low income families is their number of relationships with people who are in different socioeconomic statuses as them. A lot of research done. There's a website called Opportunity Insights where you can kind of learn a little bit more about this. A Harvard economist named Raj Chetty has done a lot of really great work around this. So if you are interested in some of this stuff that I nerd out about, that would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
But it does make me think about, like, for those who have a lot of keys, how do we live generously with those? How do we make connections with people who don't have as much? How do we unlock these opportunities? How do we think about the old things that we don't use anymore in our homes that could actually be an and then moment for someone, right? A guy called me just before Christmas and was like, hey man, we have this Canon T3i, Rebel camera that we just haven't been using. It shoots video. It's a good camera. We just don't use it. Do you have anyone who could use it? And I was like, sure. So I am able to give this camera to this kid, and this kid has started an Instagram account. Yeah. He's at every basketball game shooting photos. He's now made, I think, $120 like shooting for other kids who play on the JV basketball team, right? Like, introducing this one camera into the ecosystem, like, has changed. Like, this kid has fallen in love with documenting and doing these things, right? And it was just kind of interesting to, like, I feel so fortunate that I'm able to kind of make these connections.
Yeah. And how did you know that kid needed that camera? How did you pick up on that?
I mean, this is one of my core guys, and I have some nice camera equipment, and I was speaking, and he actually didn't. I think it was during the summer, and was just like, "Hey, do you want to come with me? And do you want to like just take my camera?" And I think that was kind of the click of like, this was really fun. I enjoyed moving around the room. We kind of talked about how to move,
enjoy it. Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed was growing up in my community. I had a lot of different opportunities to try things and decide if I liked it or not.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, yeah. I took piano lessons for a week and was like, yeah, no,
not for me.
Yeah. My piano teacher told me I had fat hands. Right. And it was just like, okay, not for me. But
yeah,
there were other avenues that I was able to try things. And so that's what I have really tried to do being on the East Side, is like, hey, let's try things. And you realize, okay, I don't like that. So let's move on to the next thing. And so my dream is that we create communities where more kids can try and fail without it ruining them.
Yeah.
They can find things that they love to do and are passionate about, and things of that nature. So that's what I would encourage, your listeners to do is, assess, like, what groups am I running around with? Who am I connected with? What resources do we have that we often don't think about that could be repurposed and given and in a way with, no strings attached, that, people can explore different avenues.
Mm-hmm. That's really good, man. So good. And I feel like you kind of answered my next question, which is like, yeah, the process of being able to understand, recognizing the keys that they have,
Hmm.
beginning to develop the noticing muscle of noticing that kid or that person or that group,
Yeah.
and making the conscious decision to give that. And so I feel like you kind of just answered that a lot.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm like, wait, this didn't match up, is you said one of my core guys. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the relationship question. You
Yeah.
have core guys.
Yeah. I have a core group of guys. And then, I mean, as you build relationships with people, it naturally expands. And so over the course of years, like I'm in generational work. There's a guy named Marcus Jackson here on the east side, and he has a community center right up the street from my house. And we've talked about this generational work of like, man, our first group of mentees is now like
Yeah.
at the age that now they're having kids, right? Like we've been doing it
Yeah.
for so long that it's like we're about to restart the work of investing in family. Or like I've been able to spend time with, you know, Jeremiah, and now I know Jeremiah's mom, and now I got
Yep.
invited to the birthday party. So now I know the extended family. Now I've been invited to 5 birthdays because I've been around for 5 years. Now I've been to 15 birthdays, right? Like, and so I know the extended family. And so it's not just for the core guys, but there's that relationship there that I've been able to once again kind of be a bridge for resources, opportunities, jobs, preparing kids for interviews, things of that nature. That has been a lot of my life work,
Yeah.
post college. So
Yeah.
I've been so fortunate that I've been able to kind of expand these relationships into the families. And people talk, and there's a lot of connections on the east side. Like it's not really that big, so people know each other, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And you don't find, yeah. That's awesome. My
Like
brain goes, wait, go ahead.
another fun story that
Yeah.
happened really recent, and it's kind of a unique way. Like what I've been thinking about lately is like, how do we bring more people into the fold of like trying new things and these experiences and giving chances and who gets chances and all those things. I got to be the keynote speaker at this big like workforce summit out in North Carolina. And they were like, "Hey, Taylor, we need a hype song for you to walk out to." And so like send us the song. And I'm like, I don't know what to pick. I was like, do I do something hype? Am I like picking something funny? I was like, what should I do? And then I'm thinking, I'm like, oh shoot, Marcus has this community center, and they have 2 sound studios in there.
Amazing. I knew this is what you're
And
going to say.
kids are making beats. And so I texted Marcus. I was like, hey bro, do you have any kids who have made like some good music? He's like, yeah, come up here. And so get to go up there, and I get to meet this kid, and he has this really great beat. I'm like, let's do it. So we do his first music deal, and I have a 1-page licensing agreement, very simple, but this was a one-time use. So I get to use the song one time for my intro, and I got to pay him, and he got his first music deal. And I left, and Marcus texted me. He's like, bro, he's like crying up in the studio.
Yeah.
Like he'd never thought that anyone would ever pay for his music. And since then he's landed 2 more deals.
Yeah.
And he has kind of this template now that he can go off of to like do the agreement, right?
Yeah.
And what he also said to Marcus was like, he can use my song as many times as he wants. I'm like, I'm just a kid, right? It's like, no, this is what the agreement said, right? This is a one-time use. If he wants to use it again, which I've got to use it, I get to pay him, again for the song. So it's really cool to kind of be able to think about, I could have just like sent them a Spotify link, but it really didn't take that much more energy to like just swing by the center and like listen to a kid show me 5 beats, and I pick one of them and have ChatGPT.
Now you're downplaying. Now you're downplaying right now, because I'm like, no, I can't let you keep going on that, because it didn't take energy to go to the studio, but it did take a frame of mind.
Yeah.
To think of that idea. And
Yeah.
that's what I feel like you're infecting into the rest of the world, which is like,
Mhm.
can you live from that state where when you get the opportunity to go speak, you think of the opportunity you can give at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's just awesome.
So I think about like, I don't have any kids, but like, how do you like think about caring for others on your kid's soccer team?
Yep.
Right. Or your kid's basketball team. I was talking with my best friend late last night, and he's coaching 8-year-old basketball. And we are just kind of talking about like, what drills are you even running? Like for 8-year-olds. They're kind of laughing and all of that. But there's a kid on the team who like you can tell like just doesn't have the shoes that other kids have. Right. And like just to be able to like having this like noticing muscle and the ability to like um humbly like build relationships with people without
Yeah.
embarrassing or doing things like that. I read a book, it's called Theirs is the Kingdom, and it's this guy who has been working in low-income neighborhoods for many years. And I read this book probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago probably, and it changed the way that I do Christmas with families. So many years, Christmas is tough for people, right? Like just being able to buy toys for families and all this. So for many years, I've had friends who will text me and be like, "Hey, like, here's $250. Like, I know you have families, or like, do you have any kids who blah, blah, blah." And I think the first few years, it was like I was delivering, these presents just to the house. And like, it was a nice gesture, but it's just kind of not very thought out. And I read this book and it challenged me to like just give in secret. So I do like these midnight present drop offs where like the
You are
kids
Santa.
or like don't know, but
Yeah.
the parents have the dignity to be like, you don't like, these are from you, right?
Yeah.
And so it like changes the dynamics of kind of coming in and doing all of that. And so that book really changed the way that I view, the way that I do ministry, in a sense of like just being quiet and noticing and being able to serve in those ways. So that's kind of another nuance.
Yeah.
with-
It's empowering. It's giving the opportunity to be the giver.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you realized this was a thing, and are we doing okay on time?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. When you realized this idea of and then moments was such a concept and it was something to build, like it really encapsulates what you've already been doing, what you had already been doing, and kind of what
Yeah.
you're building in the world.
Yeah.
How did you go about really creating how did you formulate the vision of building a movement with a concept?
Yeah. Great question. Well, before it went public, I did a lot of groundwork. I was having a lot of conversations about this concept before I introduced it publicly. And so I really got to like refine in private of like, okay, this doesn't really connect with people. This does, but this doesn't. Or people get really defensive here, or people really connect with this when I say this. And so that was really the time in private that I had to really flesh out this idea and see what was sticking and what wasn't. And then the TED Talk was the public platform for it to kind of come out into the world. So it was a concept that I'd had for a few years already, that I'd kind of shared amongst a semi-small group of people that I trusted, and all these things. And I knew an and then moment for me was I knew the organizers for the TED event in my city, and they had wanted me to do it a few years ago. I said no, and then they came back and said, we really want you to do this. We know about and then moments. We think it would be great. And I said yes at that point. And that's how that opportunity came about, was through a relationship. But yeah, it was wrestling in private. It was wrestling with people that I care about, who would give me like honest feedback. It was a culmination of a decade of conversations kind of leading up to this, of like, hey, I want to talk about this kind of hairy topic, but I want to put it in a way that is like palatable for people, and people won't shut down instantly kind of when talking about this. I got to recently meet with kind of a leading researcher on poverty for the country, and she's written several books. She's an incredible human. And what she talks about is this idea of, they do a lot of in-person interviews of people, and they talk about this idea in research about coding. And so they record these interviews and they go back and listen and code for different things that stick out to them.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I think I've been doing that
Yep.
like just naturally without knowing the terminology.
Yep.
I'm like been listening for these patterns over the years of how people tell stories,
Yep.
and what they leave out and what they share and all these things. So I've been coding these things without knowing that,
Yeah.
and then able to like package that up into this. So
Yeah.
for someone who has kind of a thought project or wants to be a thought leader or something like that, that's what I would say is like, what are the patterns that you're coding for when you have this idea?
Yeah.
And the other thing that she warned me about was like in research, there's this idea of the shiny marble effect, where like as researchers, you like there's this like one small thing that you hone in on because it's the shiniest thing, right? But actually there's really great things sometimes the shiny marble will distract you from.
AKA I worked hard.
No, well, I mean, potentially. But I'm talking about from my perspective of being the researcher, and I'm the one putting out the idea.
Uh-huh.
And so that was one thing where it's like, yeah, people focus on hard work and all of these things. And so you kind of want to focus on that, or a lot of people focus on that. But oftentimes it's the unseen things in these interviews that are really powerful. So if you're coming up with an idea or a movement or something like that, that's what I would warn against, is kind of the shiny marble effect, but also looking for other things to code that align with what you're trying to launch.
And clearly, you said I did a lot of groundwork in private, and how I see that happening is you get a question that comes to your mind about, and then you go into a conversation and you're kind of, let's say that question is a green flag. You're looking for where to stake that green flag in the conversation.
Yeah.
When you get an idea, when you get a question in your mind that goes as a sorting or a filter into a conversation, what are you often doing when you get that question for your mind?
You mean how I come up with these questions?
Yeah. Is it like, some people are like, when I'm driving and then I just get this.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you, Taylor, are doing when you were like, oh, you know what? Now I'm going to ask this, or this is my new hyper-focus thing.
Yeah. That's really funny. I think naturally I'm just a curious person. And once again, that goes back to my childhood of my dad always like asking us questions, and then providing answers or like inviting us to kind of unpack things. And so I think naturally I'm just a noticer and I'm curious in general. So I think it's something naturally I do. Obviously, yeah, I have thoughts in the shower and driving or after a conversation, or I'm in a group text with like a small group of guys where we like throw out these really tough questions and we're really wrestling with it. Derek being one of them is like, when we spend time together is like no cordial like catch up time. We like literally just jump into conversation. And that's what's cool about having a friendship, that you don't just meet up, once a year and have to play catch up. We like kind of have this continual conversation throughout the year, and we're bringing people in and having these things as we're thinking through some of these really challenging topics that impact the people that we love the most. So
good. I just wrote down, what question are you wrestling with? Because even just to have that, what you just gave me in that's a question I can ask to bring that up in other people too.
Yeah.
So what a great way to communicate. What a great way to start having better conversations.
Yeah. It's so fun. And then as you start to become known for being curious and having these thoughts, like people like having these conversations. And so a lot of my coffee meetings and meeting up with people, like we're wrestling with these questions and these concepts and, these things where it's like, this isn't just really a catch up meeting. It's like, I really want to know what you think about, the state of this, or I've been thinking about transportation a lot and how people get their first car. And
I saw that on your website.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How like transportation, how it plays into opportunity and how people get opportunities and get to opportunities and all these things. So I've been gathering data and interviewing people about their first car and how they got it. And it seems from the data that is currently showing that a big percentage, 80% of people that I've interviewed, 85, got help in some form or fashion to get their first car. And I have this drone footage of the school right by my house, low income school in the middle of a school day, with 14 cars in the student parking lot, and they have several hundred students. And then I have drone footage of an affluent school in our community in the middle of a school day, and the parking lot is exploded with cars, right? Hundreds of cars. And so then you ask the question of like, okay, how do kids get cars? And then what does that unlock for them when they have this vehicle, this mode of transportation? And so that's one of the thoughts I'm wrestling with, and then how to figure out how to tell that story in a way that invites people to think differently about it.
Beautiful. I'll go take that. I'll share mine on your website. Speaking of your website, how can people find you, follow you, be a part of the movement?
Yes. andthenmoments.com is the website. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. You can search Taylor Doe or Tdoe, Tdoe is my nickname. So that's a way. And I love having conversations. So even if it's through DMs or a message or an email or anything like that, or if you have an event where you need a keynote speaker and want to introduce some ideas, I'd love to have that conversation. So
good. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And you've got my, I'm so glad I stumbled upon your video, and then now I feel like I have a new friend. So
yes,
when you come to Kansas City, make sure you tell me, and I'll fill the room.
For sure. That'd be awesome.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.